Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. It's about time to head out to the good old J.O.B. and then this evening I'm off to check out the new movie Traveling Light. Now, I knew nothing about this film, until just moments ago. I was going through my AMC app to see what films are coming out, and then this movie popped up, and it was out today. So I thought, okay, well, what the hell? Let's go check this thing out and see what we got. So the premise of the film seems to be that it takes place during the early days of the pandemic, in probably like May of 2020. And Tony Todd played a Uber driver, taxi driver, something of that sort, who's searching for his son, who seems to be tied up in some kind of cult. Now, I'm not sure. I know Tony Todd plays the father that's looking for his son, and I think Stephen Dorff plays somebody involved with the cult or something like that. The trailer itself does not give a whole lot of information about this film. So I looked it up on IMDb to get a little bit more information about it. This was interesting, it is directed by Bernard Rose, who is the director of Candyman. But this movie it's not a horror film. This movie is actually listed as a drama. So I'm interested. I don't know. I want to see what this is all about. Tony Todd looking for his son during the early days of the pandemic. I don't know. Sounds interesting enough for me. So time to hit the old road, go to the job, and then off to see Traveling Light. Welcome back. Just getting home from checking out the movie Traveling Light, and right out the gate, guys, let me tell you, I really enjoyed this movie. I was extremely surprised by this movie. I really was not expecting what I got when I walked into the theater today. So let's start off with the one big negative I have about this film, and then I want to move into the positives I have about this movie. Okay, my one big negative of Traveling Light is the time period it takes place in. The film takes place in the early days of the pandemic, May 2020. So this is just when we were just, putting our big toe into the big pool of bullshit that's about to come our way. And the issue I take with this is that I don't feel like we've had enough time. I don't think there's enough time between now and the time that this takes place. It's still really fresh in our minds. If this film is released 10 years from now, I would feel very differently about it because I could go back and look at things from a different, angle. But right now, with all of this very fresh in my mind, it's hard for me to kind of want to go back, honestly, and see these events unfold again. So that is it. That's my one big negative, and I think the one thing that's going to kind of turn people off to go see this film. Now, let's talk positives. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about are the performances. And I'm going to start with Tony Todd. Now, I am a big fan of Tony Todd. I think he's great. Now, most people are more familiar with his horror movies that he's done, but he's also done episodes of Star Trek. He's done other independent films. The movie that I did, The Man from Earth, he's in that. He has a great dramatic role in that film, and he also has a really good dramatic role in this movie. He is your everyman character in this film. He's the guy that we follow along, and we see things through his eyes. And Tony Todd is outstanding in the role. He plays a Uber driver named Caddy who goes around and picks these people up, and strangely enough, it all seems like he's taking people all day long to the same location. Now that brings us to the other part going on in this film, and that's this weird cult that's all meeting up at Mulholland Drive. Now, I'm not sure, they don't really go into a lot of details about this cult. They just seem really kind of new agey and everything. Now, Stephen Dorff plays one of the followers in this, and he's outstanding. This is a really good Stephen Dorff film. It's it was a really good performance out of him. And then the cult leader is played by Danny Hudson, and he also does an outstanding job in this movie. So the performances are great. And that brings me to some more of the aesthetics of the film. The movie looks really cool. The colors of the film, the way it's filmed, the editing, it tries to make this creepy, kind of dreamy state of LA, and it does achieve it quite well. The camera is used mostly in a handheld. Now, it does have a little shaky cam, so I will warn you out the gate, but it's not too awful, bouncing up and down. It's more smooth. I mean, it's more like if you were holding your cell phone camera and you were kind of walking around with it. It's like that, so it's not too awful terrible. So I did enjoy that. It made you feel more like you were actually following around these characters as they're going around with things. The movie also has kind of like an anthology vibe to it. It's not really an anthology film. It's more of one of those, like, all of these people kind of have their own thing going on in this 24-hour period, and it brings all of them to one place, and, shit happens, basically. And and I like that. I like movies that have all these little different sub-stories going on of people, and it all brings them together in one place. A film that I think was great that achieved that is Grand Canyon with Steve Martin. Excellent film. But back to Traveling Light. So, yeah, guys, I really enjoyed this movie. The acting is great. The cinematography is great. Everything about this film is really different. It's unique. It's something that I do feel that people need to get out there and see. So, it's time. It's time now, folks, for me to go ahead and throw a grade on it. And I kept throwing this around in my brain, and the more I sat down, and the more I thought about it is that this movie is a B. A solid B movie, and my reasoning is definitely the time period. If this would have just aged like a fine wine, we would have given it a little bit more time, put it back down in the cellar, let it ferment a little bit more, then release it out to the public, and I think the film would have been a lot more impactful. Alright, that's all I have for you today, guys. Thanks again for checking out The Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give us the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's another thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. I'm gonna.